Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Black Mirror Season 4, Episode 6. It is called Black Museum. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. Where to start with that? I feel this. It's funny, I think Episode 5, Metalhead, was one of the thinnest episodes of Black Mirror in terms of all of its messages. I feel like Black Museum has probably got the most condensed amount of messages and different things going on in it than any other episode of the entire show.
This is Black Mirror in a nutshell. Like, this is the all-encompassing episode to go, this is what this show is.
Do you know, it wouldn't surprise... I mean, I'm kind of expecting a Season 5, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brooker turned around and said, no, that was meant to be the finale. Because it's kind of almost...
It works, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of works... Because even though it's an anthology, it doesn't really need a finale, but it kind of works as a... Now, this kind of, like, tent, puts a tent around the whole thing and says...
It's a thematic point that would kind of wrap everything up.
So Black Museum... we have a character named Nish who is driving sometime in the future because she has solar panels for a car. That's basically all we get in terms of time period at this point. And she runs out. She actually pulls over at an actual station, but just pulls out her panels and plugs it in.
Yeah, and that was the first reference that I noticed. There's a lot of
Oh, there's tons of references. Yeah,
but the first one is the charging station is called BRB. Which obviously, Be Right Back was episode 1 of season 2.
Yes. Oh yeah, there's tons of references. I doubt we caught them all. I will mention.
But we'll mention them as we go. We'll
mention the ones we spotted. I'm sure there's tons in the background.
More importantly, just the ones we remember, because there was tons.
Once you get into that museum, I have no doubt there's tons of small shit in the background that people will be picking.
Do you know what? I hope there's stuff there that hints at future ones as well that we haven't seen yet.
That could be fun. So she goes in and she's it looks like she's killing time. There's one little suspicious cut when she sort of looks at the car. She sort of because she saunters over to this black museum and looks down the side, and there's a sort of like cut that as if there's something dramatic about to happen, and then it just cuts to her trying to get back in, and that's when Rollo, the guy who owns this place, comes out. He's like, "Hey, do you want to come in?" and blah blah blah, and puts her through the metal detector, checks her stuff, and comments on her gadgets and stuff. And as soon as you get in, one of the first things you notice actually when they go into the hall past the entrance is White Bear. The woman from White Bear's on the screen, and it comes up saying child killer, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and you've got the ski mask as well, comes up right after.
Yeah, you see like the mannequin wearing the costume of the killer in that in the virtual thing, and I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right, so Black Museum is literally a museum of all the different stories of Black Mirror. That's what we're actually doing here. That's what it is. Because we get in, you see the lollipop from the first episode of this season is one of the displays. Yeah. There's various other things around. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. And obviously there's some stuff we don't know about, and which is what this episode becomes, because he starts telling you the story of, oh, here's this thing, and here's what this relates to. The first one we get to, of course, is this hairnet looking thing. It's techie, but it's a hairnet.
It is, yeah.
And so we actually have a bit of an anthology episode within the anthology show, because we get two sort of standalone stories almost.
Yeah, it's essentially some short stories.
And then it all kind of comes together in the last third to like build an overall thing. There's some hints throughout, of course, the first two stories. In the first one, you see on the news at one point there's like a news reporter who's gone missing, and then the second story you see that they've got a killer for the news reporter who died, and I'm like, okay. And at that point I was like, okay, the third story is going to be culminating these hints. Like I was sure of it.
It is, but I like that take those tiny little snippets out and they both function on their own as little shorter stories, and it's clearly like, okay, no, we had these ideas, but there's not enough for a full episode out of these, so let's just do this.
Yeah, which funnily enough ends up being the second longest episode of the season, because it is multiple stories rather than just the one. But yeah, so the first story we get about this magic hairnet is about a doctor who, because Rollo was in like tech. I think it's funny actually, this is maybe one of the first times in the entire show where we actually kind of get the person responsible for building a lot of the stuff that ends up
it's very haywire. Behind the scenes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you catch the name of the place that he worked as well? I thought that was really interesting.
I did not notice. No, I didn't notice. What?
St. Juniper's.
Ah, there you go.
Yes, which I believe is actually the company that ran the San Junipero machine service.
Well, there's a reference to that as well at one point.
There is a reference to that later,
because she's asking questions about the tech, and what do you mean when we upload people to the old people to the cloud? So, oh no, that was years before we got to that. And I'm like, okay, all right. I think we'll have a discussion at the end of this whether or not how connected all these stories have been throughout the whole show. I think it's worth talking about the world as a whole, given all the hints, especially in this one. But so it's telling a story, and he's wanting this doctor to be like, "Hey, we've got this new experiment thing. Imagine, so we were testing these lab rats, and like we were trying to transfer memories, but instead, what we found we had actually achieved was we could transfer sensation, physical sensation. So when one was hurt, the other one would hurt. And you're a doctor. Imagine you have to rely on patients telling you how they feel, try to diagnose problems that way. What if you could just feel it and you could just know for sure because you could and be really quick. And sure enough, he gets this little procedure, he gets the thing, and they test it.
It's very Frankenstein's bolt.
Yeah, it is actually, and even the stitches as well. Now you mention it, and so they put the net on the person who's feeling the thing, and he's got the little receptor that feels the pain or other things. In fact, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, it goes down the sex route eventually. As soon as he put it in, I went, "Is it also pleasure?" Because I feel like there's a lot of uses of that.
Yes, there is.
I immediately thought of that as soon as this whole thing started. It was when he pricked the finger, I think, where I went, yeah, but what if she starts rubbing one out? Is he just going to start being like, just sitting there in the chair like, and give them credit, they went right down that path after a couple of
years. They know what the audience is thinking.
Because we got a montage of him doing really well. He was diagnosing all these patients, and he caught things that no one else was catching because he could feel it, and because especially after a little bit of experience, because he knows what appendicitis feels like because he's felt it 10 times. So when he gets to that 11th person, and it's like, nah, they think it's that, but this doesn't feel quite right because I know what that feels like now.
Yeah, there's more going on here.
Because very few people, especially with things that are terminal, can feel it again. So it's not like they have the experience to know, I know what this is because I felt it before.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I don't think he doesn't even necessarily know exactly what it is at that point. He goes, but it's not appendicitis. It's different. So you can go and do more tests and figure it out.
It makes them look. It makes them look down the other paths. And yeah, it gets to the fun stuff where he's having sex, but she's wearing the receptor, so he's feeling both orgasms. It's a motivation for him to perform well. I feel like she's getting a lot of benefits out of this because he can't slack. He's like, no. Now I have a reason to be the best ever.
Yeah. But and there's no faking it on her part anymore.
Oh, she can't. Yeah, he knows. He absolutely knows.
He knows exactly what he's feeling.
It's funny they never actually went down that path. Actually, they got a funny. That could have been a comedy moment. That
could have, yeah.
Where she's pretending. He's like, Stop lying.
In an episode dedicated to this, I'd have expected that.
Yeah.
But in a short story, it's like, okay, we haven't got time for every joke.
And of course, Nish, who's hearing all this story, is like, but there's a but coming, right? There's something went wrong. And he's like, oh, okay, fine, there's a but.
And Nish is every viewer of this show.
Kinda.
Where's the but? When's this going wrong?
And what goes wrong is he's still hooked into this guy when the guy dies. And I'm like, okay, I'll see where this goes, because I had no idea where this was going to go. I could see it coming that this was going to be the big dramatic thing that changed everything, but I didn't know what after that was going to, did he just die? Was he catatonic after this?
Yeah, I wondered, was it a case of, I think Black Mirror's even kind of touched on it before, the idea of, okay, no, this is virtual, but the brain kind of believes it.
Yeah, even this season we've had that, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, apparently he wakes up minutes later. He was technically dead, but he experienced dying, but he came back. And the effect that it had to him, it kind of warped the implant a bit, because now he started to enjoy pain. He started to get off on it. He starts to he'll be feeling that someone's having a heart attack, and he'll be basically standing there having an orgasm. And he discovers this, of course, because he's in bed with the girlfriend, and she steps on a plug, I think it is, and her foot's in complete pain, and he's just sitting there.
To be fair, that hurts like a bitch.
Oh, it does, absolutely does. It's the scariest part of Home Alone, when they're walking about in their bare feet and they're stepping in the little toys and ornaments.
Lego is the worst for that.
Yeah, Lego. Yeah, Lego's the real killer.
Terrifying memories.
Paint cans in your face. I know. I mean, sure it hurts, but it's
no Lego on my feet.
It's a thud pain, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's the really sharp points. It's got a really, really small surface area, so it's just got all that force right in a really soft bit on the bottom of your foot. Because it doesn't need to be hard because you got shoes. Because we're civilized.
I mean, I suppose arguably caveman times they were uncivilized just because they were still cavemen, but
yeah, and I assume the soles of their feet were thicker because they're running around on rocks and shit.
You would imagine so, yeah.
They'd get calluses, like you do on your hands if you play an instrument, something like that.
You build up a tolerance. No, sure. Yeah. But regardless, so he starts getting off on it, and he's basically he's hanging around, and he even like stalls telling them what's wrong so he can just enjoy the pain for a little bit more. And of course it naturally gets to the point where he wants to try kinky shit with her. He's like, oh, let's just try some pain, I'll try hitting you during sex and we'll see how that goes, and choking maybe. And she's just uncomfortable, she doesn't like it, she's like, no, let's not do this. And even when he's trying to like say sorry, he's just sort of pinching her arm, like just a little bit of pain, a little bit of pain. Now obviously Black Mirror, I'm expecting this to go dark as shit, and I'm like, oh, is he going to start beating her up or something like that to like make it work or something like that? And instead it goes down a different path where he goes to Rollo again, and he's like, hey, obviously there was side effects, we'll try and work out something, but for the meantime just stay at home, just stay away from people, just be on your own. But at this point he's addicted, he needs his fix, and he basically starts just self-harming because to feel the pain
starts
directly.
Accidentally, he smashes a glass because he's so tense.
Yeah.
And then, cuts his finger and he's like, oh shit, I feel pain. Why didn't I think of that?
And as Rollo puts in the narration, he's a doctor, he knows how far to go without causing...
Oh, and this scene, like, I'm pretty alright with gore, but, oh my god, just bits of finger and stuff on the floor. I'm like, oh, this is grim.
Oh, this was nasty. It doesn't show you too much. You see like the blood in the sign.
There's just hints? Enough to go, this is disgusting. Like fingertips on the floor, the tooth coming out. I'm like, ugh.
But then, obviously, it talks about escalation. This is very a serial killer thing, where they start small and they keep needing a bigger fix and something more extreme. And it's the idea that, the pain's not just quite enough, actually. What made the feeling so great before was the pain plus the fear, because the people who were in pain were scared of dying or scared of whatever.
Yeah.
So, naturally, this is going to get to the point where he wants to try and murder someone, because the fear plus the pain is what's going to,
Oh, of course, yeah.
So he goes to a homeless person and drills them. He puts the net on and then drills them in the head.
It's pretty glorious.
And he's having a time of his life, and obviously gets caught, and that's kind of the end of it. And he's in a coma. I did laugh out loud that he had a giant boner in the coma, which he does point out he added for effect. That didn't actually happen, because I was like, this is so comical. It's funny, but it's like, okay, I added the boner. I thought it was funny. Couldn't resist.
It's so self-aware, this episode. Yeah. I actually really love this, the way it's presented. The guy playing Rollo is such a good storyteller for this. He's got a really great voice for it.
Oh, he does. And I think to analyse this portion, to say, okay, what's this episode about? I think it's a fun little story in and of itself, just for the absurdity, and it keeps escalating. But analysing it, I think you could go deeper into the kinky sex side and the idea of, like, because it does kind of like present a typical sort of murderer kind of like. We've just watched Mindhunter, of course, so we've got this in our heads where it's like this escalation. But I think just in a broad sense, if you're looking at it from the tech side of things, I think this is just a very broad examination of like how people are now addicted to things like Twitter or Facebook, and they always have to keep looking, and they can't go a day without looking at them, and it becomes a bit of an obsession.
Because you're enabled by the tech being just there, and obviously this case it's literally in his body, whereas to us it might as well be connected to us because it's always in our hands. Is the point?
Yeah, and I think for people who are our age, I think younger people, they maybe don't get this as directly, but I think for people who are our age, and we're not that old, but just the idea that we lived a significant portion of our lives without Twitter and Facebook existing. Just to use those as examples.
We remember before any of that.
And we were fine. Life moved on. The world turned round. It was fine.
Yeah. It was arguably more boring, but yeah.
But now you're so used to having it that then you become kind of enabled. I think maybe I'm not as addicted to those things, but I think the internet as a whole, I probably am. Like, if you take the internet away from me, I am like, oh, I need a fix.
How many hours a week do you sit at your computer or on your phone, not even doing anything, just scrolling through shit?
More than I would care to admit.
Yeah, me too.
I can't count that.
No, me either.
I need a quantum computer to calculate that data.
I was doing a survey earlier, and it asked me that question. It's like, how many hours a week do you surf the internet for non-study related purposes? I'm like, I don't know, a lot.
I don't know. As much as I sleep, maybe. Something in that ballpark.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do other stuff, but then sometimes I'll go, wait, hang on, what did I just do for the last hour? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously there's broad comments on addiction, there's broad comments on fetish, there's broad comments on just being addicted to the internet and technology and things that are easier. And just to point out my point there, my phone's vibrating mid-review because I forgot to mute it because I'm too addicted to
shame on you.
To the world. I know.
I know. On silent mode, so I haven't taken it off today.
But honestly, that was the most dramatic point that could have happened, so I'm happy with it.
If there's ever a time for it to go off in a recording, it was then.
So no, I think it's doing all those things, and I think so even just this section on its own, it's got a neat little bit of commentary that's working independently, and then we switch over to the next thing, which is this monkey, not stuffed monkey. Well, it's a stuffed monkey, but like a toy monkey, not an actual monkey who's been stuffed. Just for the record.
Yes, there is a difference.
Yeah.
It is stuffed, but not a stuffed monkey. Yeah.
It's not taxidermy. It's just a toy.
Yes.
And it becomes this story because he's like, oh, this is actually the saddest thing here. And I'm like, oh god, it's going to get depressing. I can feel it. And we were interested in this couple. We see them meet. We see Jack and Carrie meet. And they come together, they get pregnant, they have a son. And you can see her death coming a mile off because she's backing out into the road with the camera. I'm like, okay, when's the truck coming?
It's still so sudden, though. Even though you're there watching for it, it still just hits really quickly.
And it hits her, and she's in a coma, and they actually introduced this little bit of tech, but it's just almost just there as like a little thing before things get going. This, like, she can respond yes or no, even in a coma, with this little light thing.
Yeah.
Which I was interested in, because I was thinking, like, how do you know that's real? Really?
No, I know. It's brilliant, isn't it? What if it's not? What if it just... It hears your voice...
And just picks one.
It just picks one. Yeah, just a random. It'll light up.
It's just to make you feel better that you're getting a response.
It'll have some programmed so it can hear the inflection of a question.
Yeah.
And when it hears that inflection, it'll go, "Here's a light."
Yeah, I don't know. I was questioning it, which I think. But what I think about it is that when you look at the end of this story, it actually comes full circle where it comes back to just having the yes or no buttons, basically.
It does.
But yeah, so Rollo shows up and he's like, "I've got this new tech. You're gonna love this." She's never going to wake up. But we can put our consciousness into your head because you've got like 60% of your brain you're not really using. So we'll put her in there.
Yeah, I like how the typical myth is you only use 10% of your brain. Absolute bollocks, by the way. Just in case anyone thinks it's real, you use it all. But in this heightened future, it's like no, we use 40%, not 10.
Yeah. Which I think is intentional. I don't think Brooker is under the impression that fact is
he knows it's the common myth and the thing that people say. So it's what you heighten for the effect.
So, and he thinks about it, but then the green light comes on. He's like, and I'm like, yeah, that's been rigged. He's hooked that up. He knows she's going to say yes to that. But so sure enough, it happens, and I was reminded of so much of Get Out. Actually, the visual of her inside his head. Kind of there.
I've not seen that, so
a bit of Get Out, a bit of Inside Out. Those two things kind of mixed, which is two very weird things to mix. But trust me, I know what I'm saying there. And she's in there, and he takes a bite of the apple, and she tastes it, and she's basically having an orgasm with the apple because she's not tasted anything in months. And obviously, this just shows my brain perhaps, but I immediately thought of sex. I was like, okay, when are things getting kinky? When is like. Because honestly, I was expecting this to go down a different path where she would want him to have sex so she could also get the sensation. And it'd become this weird thing where they'd have to like sort of decide on who their sexual partners were going to be as a team. And I thought, this could have some interesting, like, obviously didn't go down that path, but I thought, okay, there could be commentary there.
It's an interesting idea.
There could be things to do there. And like the idea of her accepting that he needs a partner now, even though she's still in his head and so on. It never went down that path, but I thought there was stuff to mind there. If they ever wanted to return to this tech at some point in the future,
and I think one sentence actually implies that it could and will return to this tech. Rollo says, these days it's illegal to put consciousness in anything that can convey less than I think it was 5 emotions.
Yeah. So yeah, it maybe implies that we'll get that story at some point as an episode.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting. But no, she's in his head, and at first it's all nice, and like she's happy to hug her son, and all the rest of it. So it's all happy. Very quickly, however, as Rollo later points it out, and I think anyone could have seen this going this way. The idea that she's always going to be in your head. Backseat driver is the way they put it later on.
Yeah.
And you can never turn it. Well, you can pause it. That's what we get to later. But at least at first, he can't pause it. And I actually love the scene where he's mad at her, so he's threatening to eat anchovies because she doesn't like anchovies. He's like, "I'll eat it, bitch." And she's just like, "Oh, stop eating the anchovies."
This was cracking me up because I was watching this with a girlfriend. And I just went, "You're never going in my head."
No, I agree. But it doesn't raise that moral quandary later on again, where it's like, well, what can we do? Well, we can turn her off, but is that killing her? Like, is that just?
Yeah, I like where he goes. No, legally it's not. And Jack's like, yeah, but ethically, it's like, well, baby, grey area.
So it's just the whole thing, and of course he gets in the elevator afterwards, and He's like, there's an attractive woman there. He's like, oh, and he's just sort of looking around. He's like, are you checking out her boobs? Seriously? I can feel the boner forming. Like, you can't lie to me about this. And of course he hits pause, and when she unpauses, because for her it's like a split second almost. She just wakes up again, and she's like, wait, why is there a pumpkin on the table? That's months away. And I'm like, oh dear, he's kept her off for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, look,
I thought it was, again, this is something that in a longer episode of just this, I feel like it would escalate to. Rather than being the first instance. Be off for 10 minutes first.
Because I was half expecting for her to get paused again, and then when he unpaused her, the son was like a teenager. And it'd be like this really, like, she'd be like so mad at him for keeping her off that long.
I was a bit as well, but I don't think they could be bothered, recasting and doing all the makeup for just this short story.
Oh no, this is fair. Again, if it was a full episode based on this plot, I think we could have gotten down that path. And eventually, of course, they have like weekend things where she's paused during the week so he can have his privacy and he can do what he wants. And then at the weekend, it's like, no, you're turning back on, and we can spend the weekend with the kids. Kind of like if you're divorced.
Yeah, they even kind of say that. Roller says, it's like, they have this joint custody at the weekends. Have some fun.
And of course, this is all fine until the attractive neighbour moves in next door, and they hit it off. And of course, she's in the head, being like, yeah, look at you flirting.
Yeah, that was pretty judgy and bitchy, to be honest. Some of the earlier stuff, it was like, but this he was literally being really just friendly with, oh hey, new neighbour, I'll say hello.
Oh yeah, like she was being. No, I don't think it's necessarily her fault, because she's kind of trapped in there, and she has, as Rollo puts it, she has no agency. I get why she's completely frustrated.
Yeah.
But he doesn't actually do anything wrong. And just to sort of roll back a bit, actually, when they're fighting after the elevator incident, and he mentions, oh, I've not jacked off in weeks, and she's like, oh, I'm not stopping you. And I'm like, go on, try it. See how she feels when you're jacking off. Like, my curiosity is like piqued by that. But then he's like, no, it's like try to jack off in front of a cop who's also your mum.
Yeah, see, that struck me as a little bit weird, given that they were a married couple.
They were,
so,
yeah.
It's not that weird.
Yeah, it's not that bizarre. Joe, I think it's interesting as well. I think it's interesting that all of the stories, especially these first two, they both have some similar themes where the tech lets someone feel what someone else is feeling.
Yeah.
She's in his head feeling what he feels. In the last story was, him feeling the pain or the pleasure of someone else. Like, that's a running theme. I think the main broad theme of this entire episode is empathy.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's definitely the big thing. So and it's always funny actually, because eventually, like, she's gonna turn back out at the weekends, and she's mad at him because he's spending time with the girlfriend now. The neighbours now, the girlfriend moved in with them full time, and now he's spending time with her at the weekend with the kid, and she's mad that she's also there. She's like, no, this is time for us to be with the kid.
I was really glad that the new girlfriend knew about her in the head.
Because see, when he was talking to himself, I was like,
and she's just staring over. I'm like, I was just thinking, is she thinking he's going crazy? I'm like, this could be fun, but
it could be fun. I think it's much more interesting though that she does know, and she just comes up and goes, is she being a bitch again? And she starts like arguing with him. Because I think as funny as the threatening with the anchovies is, I think her they go back to Rollo, and the idea to solve all this is to put her inside not the pet monkey, the the toy monkey. And give it to the kid as a present, and that way the mum's always with them. And it's very inhumane because she can only express, happy or sad based on I need a hug, which is sad, or monkey loves you, whatever the name was. And it's a whole thing. Funniest thing of this episode, though, by far, was the girlfriend grabbing the monkey, putting it up against the wall, and being like, "Listen, bitch, are you gonna like?"
Just holding it by the throat,
and like just threatening her. You I need a hug for no. Are you gonna make a problem? Because I can still delete you. It's just that threatening scene was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh, it was brilliant.
It's great. And again, you're dealing with empathy. Can you be empathetic? Empathetic. Thank you. Brain was fried. So can you be empathetic with someone who's in your head like that, and like, because technically she's not alive anymore, but she is in there, and she's feeling things.
It's a very similar theme to what we've been dealing with since the start of this season with, USS Callister. Of, are these people? They're just digital copies. She is essentially just, at this point, a digital copy. Yeah.
Well, see, in this case, you could argue that she's not a copy; she's just transferred.
She's just transferred, yes, but it's digital data is still the point.
Yeah, but I guess to the point, though, what is a person, non-physically except data, essentially.
Exactly, and it's been a theme in Black Mirror before. Even going, we mentioned Be Right Back. That was kind of not exact, but that was almost like a prototype for this idea of okay, we can recreate it, even if not exactly.
Yeah.
And then obviously San Junipero is this idea again.
Yeah. So no, again, fun story on its own. Obviously bleak ending, and it is kind of inhumane. You can see that Nish is kind of like she's still in there, and you only see her inside the bear, but you hear the bear say its thing, or the monkey. Sorry, I'm saying because teddy bear's more normal.
I think it's the ending of Metalhead didn't help.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's a teddy monkey.
Yeah,
that sounds weird. It says its thing, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, this is whatever. But again, you're dealing with all these themes of understanding others and making these choices. And then that leads us to our third kind of story, which is mostly, there's some flashbacks they set it up, but it's mostly kind of in the museum itself.
In the museum, yeah.
Where you have this killer who was convicted for the murder of this reporter. And we go behind the red curtain finally, and we see that there's like a digital version. Again, it's a digital copy of him.
Yeah.
And basically what's happened is he went to this... Basically, his career was going down... After this stuff got outlawed, then his career was going down the toilet. He had one last idea where he was going to... He tried to copy celebrities after they died so they could be like digital represent... kind of a... As he puts it, like Madame Tussauds, but alive.
Yeah.
Was how he put it.
Genius.
But they've got representatives. He had a lot of red tape to cross with that. So he's like, no. Serial killers and convicted murderers, those people. And he goes to the prison. He's like, hey, this will take care of your family, like proceeds will go to them after you die. So he agrees to it reluctantly. And what I thought was interesting is up until this point we just kind of accepted that he was probably guilty because we just seen it on the TV in the background and stuff. But of course he actually is saying that he's not guilty. He's actually still saying he's innocent. I was like, okay, so this is more interesting.
Yeah, and we get the little bit from Nish who's like, oh, but there was all this stuff that there was these protests. There was the DNA evidence might have been tampered with, and it's starting to murky it a little bit.
Yeah, because obviously we're talking about empathy, but the big theme as well that comes into play with this third story is the idea of assuming guilt, mob justice. Especially on the internet, where you just decide someone's guilty and everyone's like, "Oh no, lynch them."
It's very hated in the nation.
Yeah. Very much that. So that's really what we're dealing with here. And Rollo, he doesn't even care if he's innocent or guilty. He just assumes he's guilty. He's just because I think Rollo, he starts off being quite likable, and over the course of the episode, the more he doesn't seem to care in the past about trying his tech out.
Much more sinister.
Yeah, because just really cynical, and then it gets more sinister towards the end.
Yeah, but he's got great charisma, which kind of makes still, even though you can't. I really hate this guy. He's one of those that I hate him, but he's still kind of charming.
He's entertaining to watch. Yeah. Chew the scenery, if you will.
Absolutely.
And so we've got this digital version of him in there, and it's like, okay, so people would come and see. At first, you get a lot of visitors, and the main attraction though is like, okay, you can see him walking around in his cell, but that's not that much. But what if you gave people the chance to electrocute him, to be the one to flip the switch on the electric chair? And it could only be 10 seconds, because if it went 15 seconds, it would erase the digital data, because it wouldn't be able to take it. So it's like, no, you charge for people to come in.
This is why you back up your data.
Yeah, back up your data. So he charges people to come in and they can flip the switch themselves. And again, it's this very cruel... And again, it's themes that we've been playing with a lot in Black Mirror. Do you remember White Bear? It was like, okay, we knew she was guilty in that episode. What she did was awful. But is this humane, what we're doing to her now, and this reliving the punishment over and over again? Where, especially in that episode where she doesn't even remember she's guilty at first.
Right, and it's the same in White Christmas as well. The idea of just this punishment that just goes on. It's this digital version of this punishment.
Yeah. So obviously we're dealing with this. It's very inhumane. It's very the lack of empathy from everyone who comes and just enjoys flipping the switch. And again, I think obviously called Black Museum. It becomes, obviously, quite early on, you're like, okay, so it's a museum of all the Black Mirror stuff, but I think initially you think, okay, is race going to play into this story? And I think at first it doesn't necessarily, but once you get to this story, there is certainly elements of that in here, especially when it talks about how, rich white guys who come and, want to just, feel powerful, so they'll flip the switch, and, so you get these things coming into it, and you get these sort of a little bit of political commentary thrown in there.
It's definitely not about it in the way that you might have expected, but it's there.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a subtext, even if it's not completely in your face. But the idea that this tech guy, this white tech guy, was like, oh, I don't care, what this does to someone. And again, we actually have that question of doubt: was he actually innocent or guilty? His wife apparently was protesting and was trying to lead the charge of saying, no, he was innocent. I want to try and prove this. And it sounds like she never actually did. It never went anywhere, but she tried really hard for a long time to prove it. which again brings in a lot of political commentary, especially when you bring in race into the idea of just accusing someone and just accepting that as fact at face value. You've got all
Even
that there.
to go within Netflix's own wheelhouse, you have that, making a murderer, which
they kind of almost referenced at one point.
they do,
actually,
yeah.
there was that documentary. Yeah, she says at one point.
Yeah, exactly.
Before she reveals who she is. So the big twist, of course, is that she's actually the daughter of Clayton, is his name, and she gave Rollo water earlier on, and he starts like coughing. It's like, she's poisoned him. Okay, right. She's here for revenge.
Yeah.
This is all about this, and she mentions how her mother killed herself after she came to visit him. There's this really touching scene where she comes and like at this point, because that rich guy paid for like more than 10 seconds, he's basically fried his brain, essentially his digital brain.
He's just there, blank.
He's just drilling. He's just kind of there. It's just like, what does this do? This isn't punishment. This isn't him learning what he did was wrong, if he did it, right? Because right now it's 50-50. If anything, the episode makes me think he didn't do it, given the perspectives in play.
Again, it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say either way, because we're seeing this.
But we don't know. It's 50-50.
That's it. We see the story from Rollo's perspective, and it's like, okay, he's a murderer, and then we see it from Nish. It's like, okay, well, maybe he's not, and we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. But even if he is completely guilty, what is this? This is not punishing him. I mean, being fried in the chair was the punishment. This is just purely for other people's entertainment, vindictive entertainment for their sick pleasure. That's all this is. And again, it's this idea that on the internet people become faceless, so therefore there's no accountability, and other people as well. If you're attacking them, it doesn't feel like you're attacking a real person. It feels like you're attacking the digital identity of someone. If you go onto Twitter and you harass someone and say, yeah, screw you this, screw you that, it feels like people...
You're detached from it.
Yeah, people who do that arguably don't feel as bad about it, because it does feel like you're not attacking a real person, but you are, and this is what a lot of these themes are kind of getting at with this plot.
They're not really these people. They're not really doing this to a person. They're doing it to a digital copy. It's just they're doing it to their Twitter page, essentially, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, so it doesn't really feel like they're actually being that evil, but it is kind of evil. So you got all this, and you got the sort of the final game plan here, where she admits that this is my dad, and she actually. She puts the little thing on him, because again, it's the little thing in the side of the head that we've seen a few times. They've all looked a little bit different, I think, but they're all basically the same idea.
They are, yeah.
And she puts him inside her digital dad's head, and then fries him for good, because it makes sense that she wanted to like erase him and end his suffering.
She even calls it a mercy killing.
And he puts him inside so he can feel it. And they also set up this idea that it prints a little souvenir, a little like almost like a Virtua Pet looking thing that is like just a little copy of the moment, where it's not a recording, as he puts it, it's a digital copy where they're just feeling that forever in the little
but
screen.
It's real. It's a copy, not a screenshot.
So she gets one of him screaming inside her dad's head. I also liked how when he realizes where he is and he's shouting at her, he drops a C-bomb. It cuts away out to the outside. It's like, I bet you're shouting all sorts of nasty things to me, but you fry my dad's brain, so he can't tell me anything of what you're telling me, so I'll just have to assume you're being nasty. So fun stuff. And so really some touching moments there, and she leaves. I like how she grabs the monkey on her way out, because she knows there's someone in there, so she doesn't want to
can't leave him to burn.
Yeah, and she sets fire to the whole place. You realise that the air conditioning unit, which has been like on the fritz the whole episode, that's where she was. That's what it cut out before when she went to that alleyway. And she comes back and she sits down in the car, and then we get the final little reveal is that her mother is actually inside her head the whole time. We didn't even mention she was faking a British accent the whole time, and then revealed she wasn't. But as soon as she did that, that was the moment. It's like, oh, she's the daughter of Clayton.
Yeah, exactly the same. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. So no, I don't know if I needed the mother in the head thing at the end.
No, that was more there just to connect the stories again a bit more, but thematically they were already connected.
Thematically they already were, and we already had her put him into Clayton's head, so we'd already used it. But I'm not against it. It doesn't bother me. But I just, when it happened, I was like, oh, this doesn't really necessarily add anything for me. It's just kind of fine.
No, it's just kind of there. I think it's really interesting. We talk about how the theme of this episode is empathy. And it's really interesting that in the first two stories, the technology enables the empathy. They feel things because of this technology. Whereas in the third story, it's like, okay, now it's gone too far. people lose the empathy because the technology is there. They just kind of we'll just flip a switch. They're not seeing the real thing because it's technology instead. And it's this journey of how we mentioned last episode of Metalhead that it was this idea of things just catching up and suddenly it clicks and then it's too late. It's kind of the same in this with the technology where it's good, and now it's bad.
Yeah. I think you get empathy in the first two stories, and the tech helps with that. But there is a point where you need to be yourself again. You have to have your individual privacy, your individual thoughts, and you have to come back from that. The first one deals with obsession and wanting it too much. The second one, of course, just deals with just it being around all the time and not being able to get away from it. It deals with these things, and you need balance. All these things are just saying you need balance. So if you need obviously,
they're all very everyday ideas to us in this modern world.
You need empathy for people, but you also need time where you can just like be yourself and be alone and have your own thoughts, and that's fine. That's great. You need both. That's healthy.
Yeah.
So no, and then of course the final one being.
Don't be a dick.
Here's a lack. Well, to boil it down to that, sure, but here's a lack of empathy completely.
Yeah.
Here's where you just completely remove it. Enjoyable episode. Really good stuff. I think it was a nice sort of capper on the season. Obviously, we're going to do a ranked video, and I'm honestly tempted to not just rank this season. I'm tempted to rank the whole show. To be honest, when we do that.
Oh, see, that's harder because I really have to think about the older episodes, whereas these are really fresh, so it feels unfair. No. I'd have to. I need time for these to sit before I can rank them against older ones.
I don't know. I kind of want to. At the very least, you'll get the season ranked and another episode soon, sometime later this week, I imagine. We'll be squeezing that in at some point. Before we go, though, I do want to talk about this idea that at least this episode implies several things have all taken place in the same world. And people have talked about this a lot throughout the show, that there's all these Easter eggs to other things in other episodes, and it's like, does that mean they all take place in the same world? And I've never necessarily really subscribed to that, mainly because some of them feel contradictory, just in terms of the worlds they're in.
Even in this, there's things that contradict that. Like, we're talking about, there's all these objects in the museum. But then it's the one where Jack's reading a graphic novel of 15 million merits, implying that it's a story.
Yeah, for me it's more fun Easter eggs than it is they actually all exist in the same world. Especially, look at Metalhead. Like, unless that takes place last in the timeline, that can't possibly be with everything else. So
no, it can't.
I think it's more of a fun Easter egg type of thing, rather than it is saying concretely, no, these all take place in the same universe, this is how they all connect, and this is what they all do with each other. Yeah,
if you really want to, just pretend this is a parallel universe that encompasses them all.
Yeah, sure.
It's just whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, I don't think they need to connect, is what I'm saying. I think it's a fun little thing. It's nice that they put all these like wink wink nudge nudge moments in.
It's nice. I think it's especially nice in an episode that does encompass so many of the themes that Black Mirror uses all the time.
And I think if you go along with the idea again that we're talking about technology, we're talking about things being connected with the internet and all that kind of thing, it's the idea that all of it does kind of like feed onto each other. Whether they really exist in the same world, whether one's a story in that world and then it feeds off of that.
Yeah, it's the idea that they still affect each other. Your perception of this episode is different because you've seen those other episodes. It's those things exist in your head at the very least, so they do have an impact. And it's the same way the technology often it's not. The internet isn't visible. It's in itself, but it has an impact.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, because people sometimes say, oh, what do you think? How can this world possibly exist with that one? And the truth is it can't. Some of them just can't exist with each other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm fine with that.
But hey, so... No,
and you mentioned earlier that this could have been the end of the show.
It could have been, because it kind of is like a wrapper in the whole thing.
It could, and obviously they've not confirmed any season 5. The closest we got is some interviewers have obviously asked them, oh, what about season 5? And Brooker's gone, we're just focusing on 4 at the minute, getting this out. And I mean, very political answers.
Avoiding answering the question, yes.
Yes, exactly, and I'm inclined to say, oh yeah, Netflix is going to want more, because probably. But if not, I'm kind of okay with it, with this being the end, because this is kind of, it does touch on all the themes that Black Mirror deals with. It does kind of, it touches on all these, these Easter eggs. It kind of feels like, no, this is us.
I mean, do we save talking about the season as a whole for the ranked video, or do we do that now?
I'm doing it on the ranked video.
Yeah, I think so. Because I have thoughts as a whole. Of,
Yeah,
like,
me too. But
comparing it as
we'll do that.
the previous seasons, especially season 3, since they're both the Netflix seasons and they're both 6 episodes and how they stack up and whatnot. So we'll do that in that video, which should be soon. Before I'll promise before the end of the week.
What day are we on?
This is Thursday night.
Okay. So okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll have to watch everything for it.
Just checking it wasn't like Saturday and you're going, oh well, we're gonna do it tomorrow. I don't know what day it is.
It's not Saturday. I promise you, it's not Saturday. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so that is our thoughts on episode 6 of season 4 of Black Mirror. By all means, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. You'll get a link to that in the description as well, some other useful links. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again. Like I say, we'll have the rank video where we'll rank the 6 episodes of the season before the week's out. And that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Love you loads. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?